All right, welcome everybody. I'm going to try to show you how to do these practice problems in this nice thick packet. We're just going to do pages, we're going to kind of look at pages 1 through 9 today. So this first page, honestly, we're going to just tear this off. You can just tear this off because you're going to be using it throughout the packet. All right, this page lists a few different organisms and some genes. So for example, the seed shape gene is going to be represented with the letter A. And the two different alleles are going to be represented either round seeds with a big A or wrinkled seeds with a little a. Those are the two different alleles. And we know that round seeds is dominant because it's in the dominant column, for one thing, but it also has a capital letter there. And then wrinkled seeds, in the case of the seed shape gene, wrinkled seeds is going to be recessive, represented with a little a. Then we have seed color below it. We got yellow seeds with the big B and green seeds with the little b. All the way down, you can see guinea pigs, same idea, fruit flies. I give a few little hints here. On the back of this page, there's a few more traits that will come in handy later. All right, so on to the problems. So these first few problems, what I'm having you do is just kind of get your bearings. So it says, give the phenotype for each of the following genotypes. So phenotype, remember, that word means the physical characteristics, what the organism actually looks like. So in terms of seed shape, do these seeds, are these seeds actually round or are they wrinkled? That's it. Plant height, is it tall or short? Because in terms of pea plants, you can either only be tall or short. That's it for this particular variety of pea plants. All right, genotypes are listed. So these are what the genes say. So I started out with just listing the letters. So we've got big A, big A. Well, it's only got round seed alleles. It's got 2 round seed alleles. So in this case, that plant will have round seeds. And big A, little a. Well, it's got one of each. It's got a round and a wrinkled seed allele. But remember, the round seed is dominant. We know that because it's represented with a capital letter. So again, that one's going to be round. And then over here, we've got little a, little a. Well, that's only got wrinkled seed alleles, so that one's going to be wrinkled. All right, you may have been able to do that already. So let's kind of move on to, like, for example, we have these terms homozygous, heterozygous, true breeding, purebred, hybrid, crossbreed. Heterozygous, a lot of times those words get mixed up, but just remember there are 3 genotypes that we can talk about. Really, it's either going to be 2 big letters, a big and a small, or a small and a small. These 2 are the homozygous, or purebred, or true breeding ones. This is the hybrid, heterozygous, crossbreed one. All right, that is on your pre-unit quiz. So why don't you probably want to pull out that pre-unit quiz that you now have the answers to, so you make sure you don't forget that. So for example, true breeding. Well, true breeding meant 2 of the same. Another word for it is homozygous. Another word for it is purebred. So it's either going to be, in this case, we're talking about plant height. So we're going to skip on down to here, right? Tall stem, short stem. So we're going to be using the letter H's. And it says true breeding recessive. True breeding recessive. So we've got 2 of the same. So it's either big H, or little h, little h. Since it's recessive, we're going to go with little h. But that's not your answer. Remember, your answer here is to come up with the phenotype. So little h, does that make a tall or a short plant? Well, that's going to make a short plant. All right? Let's do one more. How about, let's go with hybrid. Hybrid. Well, hybrid means the same thing as heterozygous. So it's got 2 different alleles. And we're talking about fruit fly eye presence, so whether or not they have eyes. So if I go over here, having eyes is dominant to not having eyes, being eyeless. All right, so it's got 1 of each. That's what hybrid means. So that's hybrid is 1 of each. So we've got a big R and a little r. But again, that's not your answer. That's just another way to represent the genotype, right? Hybrid is a way to represent genotype. Heterozygous is a way to represent genotype. And big R, little r is representation of genotype, what the genes say. So what does this fly actually have? Does this fly have eyes or not? Well, it's got 1 of each, so it does have big R and little r. Since it has a big R, it's going to have eyes. All right? So yeah, they can be born without eyes. Down here, list all the genotypes that could give the organism the following phenotypes. So now we're just doing the opposite. So these are the phenotypes, the physical characteristics. So this plant has round seeds. Okay? So you can list it in a number of different ways, but you have to list each one. So for example, round-seeded plant, round seeds, well, we know that it has to have at least one big A. So I'm going to just put big A, because I know that's definitely going to make a round-seeded plant. You got to have 2 alleles for each organism. Remember, one came from mom, one came from dad. Another way, big A and a little a. How about little a? Does that lead to round seeds? Heck no, that leads to wrinkled seeds. So you could do that, or you could say, if you wanted to, you could squeeze this in here, homozygous dominant and heterozygous. That's same way, that's giving the same answer, it's just showing it in a different way. This is just the easiest way. Okay? Same idea for the rest of these. Okay, moving on. I do give you an example problem for the next one. I say a heterozygous round seed plant, and I even tell you that that means big A, little a, though you could have figured that out, is crossed with a homozygous recessive wrinkled seed plant. Again, homozygous means same, and then saying 2 recessive alleles, so little a, little a. So what we do is we put the big A, little a, you could put that on the top, you could really put it on the side, it doesn't really matter, as long as you put it on the top or the side. And then homozygous recessive, little a, put that on the side. What we did is we carried the big A down to each of these boxes, the little a down to each of these boxes, little a over, little a over. So big A, little a. If there's a big A and a little a, we put the big A first. Okay? Little a, little a. Big A, little a. Little a, little a. All right. So inside here, we have the combinations of alleles to make the offspring, right? This is representing fertilization. This is possibilities. This is not guarantees, right? We all know that it's if parents have 4 children, it doesn't mean they're automatically going to have 2 boys and 2 girls. So what I see in here is I don't see any offspring that are big A, big A. So I put a 0 there. I only see 2 offspring that are big A, little a, and I see 2 offspring that are little a, little a. So that's how I do a genotype ratio. I just list the different genotypes. For a phenotype ratio, remember that's telling me what they would look like. So these 2 have 1 of each, so they're going to have round seeds because big A dominates the little a. These 2 are going to have wrinkled seeds because they only have wrinkled seed alleles. So you see how I got that? 2 round, 2 wrinkled. And then what percent would be round? Well, we said that 2 out of 4, that's 50%. Okay? All right, let's try the next one. Homozygous, so 2 of the same. Dominant, so 2 big letters. Green pod plant. So we got to go down to pod color. Here's pod color, and I can see that green pod is, just as it said, dominant. So I can go ahead and put that, I'll just put that parent over on the side. You can put it on the top if you want. Big G, big G. Homozygous, they're the same, dominant, 2 big ones, and we know that we're talking about pod color. With a heterozygous plant, green pod plant. So it's going to have 1 of each, so big G and a little g. It gives you a little extra information there. It says that it's green. Well, you didn't maybe need that even. Okay, so I'm going to bring big G, big G, big G, big G, big G, little g, and big G from here and little g from top. All right, well, I see 2 big G's. I see 2 big G, little g's. Sorry, I see 2 that are big G, homozygous dominant. And I see 2 that are heterozygous, big G, little g. And I don't see any that are little g, little g. All right, looking at this, I know for sure these are going to be green pod because they only have green pod alleles. How about these ones that have 1 of each? Well, they've got a big G and a little g, so that they're definitely going to be green as well. So I see all 4 in that case are going to be green, and 0 are going to be yellow. What percent would be green? That's 100%, all of them. All right? The next page, honestly, it's the same stuff. It's the same idea. It's just that I make you draw the Punnett Square because, you know, that's how it's going to have to be on your tests and stuff. And all right, so you draw the Punnett Square. Homozygous dominant wild wing fruit fly, heterozygous fruit fly. So you're going to have to come up with the letters, homozygous dominant, and you're going to say, okay, so wild wings, so big T, and then heterozygous, big T, little t, and you're just going to carry it out, and then you're just going to say how many of each there are, right? So if there are two big T, big T's, well then you put two big T. And if there's, two big T, little t's, you put two big T, little t's, and then if there's no little t's, you put zero little t's. Just follow this format right here, what I have kind of done for you already. Same story goes with phenotype ratio. We're talking about the wings of the fruit flies. So we're either talking about wild wings or vestigial wings. So how many in here are going to have wild wings and how many are going to have vestigial wings? And what percent will have vestigial? And I'll just tell you, because there's only 4 boxes, it's going to be 0% or 25% or 50% or 75% or 100%. That's it. All right. Continuing on. Honestly, it's really more of the same. The only thing I did differently here is I, kind of used some new traits, kind of some fun traits, just for some different type of practice. Here, you're working backwards. I give you the genotype and phenotype ratio. You have to come up with the Punnett Square. So after doing all of these and kind of understanding, there's not a whole lot of different Punnett Squares that can come out of these. You should be able to come up with the Punnett Square here that leads to 2 big G's and 2 big G, little g's. I'm just going to fill in the Punnett Square so that you can work backwards from there. So if there's 2 big G's, I could put that, I'm going to put them next to each other, but I'll put them big G, and I could put it, here. If you wanted to, you could put big G here, big G here. I'm going to tell you it's not going to work if you put them diagonally from each other, but all right. So big G, and then big G, little g, heterozygous. I'll put those there. So then what you're going to do is you're going to try to work backwards, and you're going to say, okay, so what would give me that result? All right? And then it also should match this as well. All right, finally, I'm not going to work any of these problems right now because I want you to really attempt these. These are the word problems. These are the ones that really tell you whether or not you understand this stuff. Of course, your test will have all different kinds on there, but these are the ones that you need to be able to understand and do in order to move on and be able to be successful later on in this unit. So before you get to those, you really got to practice these early ones so that some of these more usual ones that keep coming up are so planted in your brain. Like, for example, I want you to really know the 1 to 2 to 1 genotype ratio, and you'll see what that is. You can see it right over here. Like, I want you to totally understand what leads to this. Okay? So good luck, and I will say, let me know if you have any questions.